It is now 12 and we will get started. So my name is Carol Walling and I'm an Instructional Effectiveness Specialist with Baker Online and Center for Graduate Studies. I want to thank you for coming to our second part of our engagement series titled Promoting Engagement Using Best Practices. I'll remind you as you come in, just make sure to mute yourself if you haven't already done so. So, today's the first day of classes. I want to thank everybody for just coming and hanging out with me we'll try to make it short and sweet, but thank you for coming to join us. Today we're going to talk about what we mean when we say a student is engaged. We're going to determine barriers to student engagement, and we're going to review and apply some alternative engagement strategies which will increase student engagement. Now remember, this is a 4-part series, so it may seem like we're taking it really slow, but I want to make sure that we get into some of the stuff really deep so you guys get the most, like your bang for your buck, the most bang for your buck, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is review the definition that we talked about last time in case there's some newbies. So we refer to student engagement it's like the degree of attention and curiosity, interest, optimism, or passion that students demonstrate when they're learning. And this can be seen in the online or the on-ground area in many different ways, whether they're interacting with their peers, interacting with you as their instructor, or even interacting with the content. That's all engagement now. And it's relevant, participatory, collaborative, and challenging. So right now, I'm going to put a survey in the chat box, and I just want everybody to get in there, and I want you to take this survey, and it's going to be 6 questions, and it's completely anonymous, so be as honest as you want, because I'm not gathering your names. And then we'll discuss the results of the survey as a group. Everybody gets in there and starts to take that poll, you'll see the results start to pop up onto our screen. Joining us, we are just taking a quick anonymous survey, and the link is in the chat box. And as you can see, your name's not popping up. Your time, don't feel rushed. I know people hate silence sometimes, but it's good to pause. 3 underway. 60 more seconds. Our first question was, faculty should modify their teaching methods in ways that engage a diverse set of students in learning. So most of you strongly agree or agree, and no one disagree. I think that's a good basis of where we should be, right? We should be able to engage a diverse set of learners. We should be able to be flexible, be able to get into that classroom and say, hey, you know what, this discussion question, prompt, activity is just not working. Let's try to change things up. Let's try to get to those other students that may not be understanding. Our second one, it looks like it's a little split. So we have faculty are the primary reason for the level of engagement in class. Most of us agree, but there's a couple that disagreed on that one. So let's talk about that. Faculty are the primary reason for the level of engagement in class. So in the chat box, if you have any ideas about what other things might be a reason for the level of engagement in class, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And it doesn't have to be those that disagree. You can be the devil's advocate if you want. Content will engage students. Yes, that is a really great thought. You know, our content and the way our deliverables are set up at Baker can hinder, or they could also enhance engagement in our classrooms, right? Yeah, some students definitely go over and above. They really do a great job of going out, doing research, and they add to the discussion without asking. And those are the kind of students that we love as faculty, right? We love to get those students that are overachievers. They get in there and they really push the envelope. Student sense of ownership in their own learning will definitely enhance engagement. Yes, you are 100% right. You know, if we have students, and I think of faculty kind of in this way as well. If you're buying in, if you're taking a sense of ownership in your own success, No matter if you're a student or a faculty member, or even an employee or a staff member, I think that you're going to be more engaged in the work that you do. Definitely 100%. That's a great comment. Okay, the next question. Relevant technology when used with solid instructional strategy can enhance student engagement. I think we all agree there that, as we're moving into the 21st century, and especially now that we're moving to a new learning management system called Canvas, technology, when used strategically, will definitely enhance student engagement. And I hope to talk with everybody about Canvas and how we can, use that LMS strategically with the new technology that can be easily embedded in that system. But that's a whole other topic, and I don't want to get into that. Okay, college students, especially online students, routinely feel disengaged in class. And this one we have a wide spread of answers as well. So we have strongly agree at 13, agree at 63, and disagree at 25. And I think that this goes back to one of the earlier questions. Students, we get a whole wide range of students here at the online campus, right? They're working, they have children, they have a lot of outside commitments away from the classroom that drag them away from being engaged. And then we have those really, gung-ho people that are really active and they want to do that extra research. So I think that we have a good split here, and I think that is indicative of the demographic that we have here at Baker College. Yes, they may feel disengaged if the discussion is far above their level of knowledge. And that can happen in those early classes, the low-level classes that might be introductory courses into maybe a major or just general education courses. But it also can happen in those upper level or even the grad classes if they're not quite ready to be where they are. It's going to be a struggle for faculty to get them engaged in that content if they feel that they can't do it or understand it. Oh, yes. Some students may feel that they already know the material. It's not relevant, and they're not going to engage because they check out, right? I already know this. Why do I have to do this? There could also be an argument that any disengagement is due to not having the discipline to focus. And that's something that I think online is especially, yes, I think that, students in online definitely fall into that because they have to be very dedicated to their class, right? They don't see you 2 days a week. They don't have that type of time commitment. It's just they have to make sure they get on there and they stay engaged all week. So that could be a definite clue to disengagement. It takes very little to shake student confidence, yes. So if there's a poor grade early in the class, or what they perceive as a poor grade, or even harsh criticism from an instructor, it can quickly lead to disengagement. Yes, you're absolutely right. And that goes back to feedback. How are we offering feedback? Are we making sure that we're positive? Are we using the sandwich method? How are we going to make sure that I don't want to say inflate their egos, but promote them in a way that, they feel empowered to continue in the class? It is not a faculty member's job to engage and entertain students. It is the student's job to engage in the content. It looks like we all strongly disagree. So it is our job to maybe not engage or entertain, but definitely be the spark, right, in the classroom. And, I taught K-12 before I came to higher ed, and it was the same thing there. I wasn't there to engage and entertain them, but it also wasn't only their job to engage in the content. It's a shared, collaborative entity to learn, right? We have to work as a community. Faculty measure part of this success by the level of student engagement in their class. I think we're all 100% on board with that. It just gives us, a good, healthy start to where we're all coming from. There were a couple questions that we really disagreed on, but there were some, that we were pretty on board with. So what do we mean when we say a student is engaged? Well, the Baker engagement philosophy, I think there's really 2 areas here where we focus on for this segment. is that we encourage them to be daily, but then we also like to make sure that they're engaged in discussion boards, blogs, wikis, or other instructor identified and college approved areas. And when we get into the Canvas learning management system, there will be other opportunities for other apps or Web 2.0 tools that you could push for engagement in. So that's what we mean when we say engagement. We want them to be actively engaged with something in the class, whether it's their books, their content, with their peers, with their faculty member, any of that would be engagement. So components of engagement. Well, I already said it, interaction with their peers, asking questions, answering questions, collaborating on group projects, or debating, comparing, contrasting theories. When we get to some of those theories, those conversations can get quite heated. Interaction with you. Are they answering, asking questions of you? Are they reflecting on your feedback? Are they questioning assumptions? Now, some of this might not be visible in the online classroom, right? Can you see how they're reflecting on your feedback? Can you watch them reflect on it? Maybe not, but you can see it maybe on their next assignment. And then a lot of us might see where we give them lots of feedback and we see that they're not thinking about it. Maybe they didn't even read it. So maybe we need to think about a different way of giving feedback. So that's engagement as well. And then sharing perspectives and ideas. Or even interaction with the course content. Completing assignments, assessing concepts, analyzing new information, or researching additional topics and ideas, just like one of our counterparts said earlier. So I think that, a lot of engagement we can see in the online learning management system, but there are other ones that, we might be able to see. We might not be able to see the actual engagement, but by pulling in alternate activities or asking them questions or engaging with them one-on-one in that discussion board, we can see the fruits of that engagement. So I want to talk about the barriers to student engagement. So we just talked about what it is and how it's done, what it may look like. So now, what are the barriers to student engagement? What stops them from talking to us? So, I'm going to have you guys build this. I'm going to have you guys build a mind map together. And don't freak out. It should be very easy, but if it doesn't, I have a backup plan. So I want you guys to learn how to use MindMeister because you might want to use it in your class. So I have created a link, and I'm going to put it in the chat box right now, a map that we can work on simultaneously. So if everyone will get onto that link in the chat box, it'll take you to my mind map, which will look like what I have on your screen right now. I've already done one for you. So once you get in there, you'll see that I have barriers to student engagement, and I've done fear. And all you have to do to engage with this mind map is press on any little tab or any of those little question marks and just start typing. And then when you want to add something to it, you press tab on your keyboard, and it'll let you add other ideas. And if we find that we can't use it, I have a Google Doc that we can use. But I wanted to try something else, and if it bombs, it bombs. So let me know in the chat box if you're having trouble accessing the MindMeister mind map. Keeping the screen open, my screen open, because you'll see everybody's comments and stuff on the mind map. There's some people in there. Good. And you can certainly add to my fear part. I added fear, but if you feel like you need to add something in there, go ahead. And then if you want to add something underneath your big bubble, all you have to do is click on that bubble and then press tab. And then you can add more comments like I have on my fear. Or you can add those little emojis, or you can change colors if you so choose to do. Or if you want to comment on someone else's bubble and add stuff to it, you're more than welcome to. Quite a few here. And don't worry, this is all anonymous as well. I can't see where any of you are. So right now it looks like we have resistance, resistance to talk, or resistance to apply a point to an example. Good. Keep going. I'm not moving on yet. Or lack of motivation. Yes, that's a big barrier. Definitely. Lack of prior knowledge. Yes. Bad technology. See, that's why I was worried about this one. Maybe it would be bad technology to use, but hey, it looks like it's working. Confidence to speak out could indicate that reading is not being done. They're not prepared for the session, or they're not prepared for the conversation. We need to understand as faculty members of an online institution that our students have a lot going on in their lives, right? And that could be indicative of this day and age as well. I know I have a lot of commitments outside of my job and the classes that I teach. But I think looking at this map and seeing all the different things that are barriers to students' engagement, it gives us another lens to look at our classes and decide how we're going to help them succeed on their assignments. Oh, well, I looked at my module for this week. It looks like they have, 2 discussion questions, a journal entry, prep for a large assignment, and then another large assignment. Am I going to do a lot in the discussion board? Maybe not, but am I going to do something that's going to help them get in the right lens, kind of like I sent you that pre-reading, just get in the right lens for what we're going to talk about? Absolutely. And maybe you don't want to do a large project in the discussion board or the discussion area that week, but maybe you want to do a low-key team assessment or formative assessment. Maybe you want them to teach each other and push for that collaboration in the classroom. It's all of that is now available for faculty to do in their classrooms to support students in the success in their class. So we'll wrap this up in a few seconds. I know that people are still adding, so keep going. This is fun. And it looks like poor time management skills underneath time commitment at home. We have poor time management skills. This is another opportunity for us to teach. Time management is something that they will have to become functional at. Yes, absolutely. I struggle with time management sometimes. I always think I could do more than I can. Add another one without clicking on the ones that are already there. Go to the top blue taskbar and just see that big plus button in the white circle. That's where you would go to add your own bubble, because some people might be typing over each other because you all want to add stuff. That's okay. One more minute to kind of keep reading other people's things and adding, and then we'll move on. Map is something that you could use in your own classrooms. You just give everybody the link and they can collaborate. And it's nice for a live feature because I can see everything that you guys add right now, like it's streaming live. But if you wanted to make it, a couple of days where students go in and add things, just, make the link live and leave it live, and you can put it in your discussion board. Ooh, difficulty in applying concepts to real life. That's a big one, and we talked about that earlier about, having students taking ownership over their own learning. And that really comes from us being able to apply it to the real world or to practical, application. And sometimes that might be something that they have a difficulty understanding the connections. And if you want to keep playing around with that, it's a really cool tool. If you want to click back over to the presentation, we'll keep going. So the path to student engagement. Oh, reinforcement. You guys did a great job on that, by the way. Just saying. Good job. So the path to student engagement. Well, step one. We have faculty concerns, right? How do I get my students to engage? It's probably the largest topic at any conference that I've been to in the last 5 years. Student engagement. How do we get students to engage? Oh gosh, this is just the biggest topic that I've seen. And so really we have 3 areas that we're concerned about, right? We want to know how we can encourage students to engage. We want to figure out how we can get that dialogue going. Sometimes it's almost like pulling teeth, Come on, guys, come on, give me something here. And then, how do we create that safe environment where our students feel comfortable to engage in? If they don't feel comfortable with you or the environment, or they don't know where things are, they're confused, they might not want to engage as much as they might in a face-to-face classroom where they feel more comfortable. Best practices. This is probably the heart and soul of this presentation, and we'll spend some time, and I want to give you examples because I learn from example and I learn from doing things. So that's how I kind of teach. So, we have 5 really big best practices in promoting engagement, and these should not be new. Build community, right? We want to have that social community where they feel comfortable, and it's one of the key indicators of student success is how comfortable they feel in the classroom. And then we need to clarify our course expectations and objectives. We want to identify and employ the best online tools for interaction. We want to promote the exchange of ideas and information in the online classroom. And we want to provide timely, relevant, and actionable feedback. And if you did that pre-reading, then this was in there and they went into some depth on this stuff, but this should not be new. So I want to just kind of go through each one of those things individually and give you an example from a successful online class here at Baker. And some of these faculty have been with us for a long time. Some of them are very new, and they've all given permission to use their wonderful resources. So for building a community, we want to make sure that we convey student diversity. And that could be using our entry-level surveys, including that maybe an introduction thread, or doing an introduction Padlet. And I know some of you have been introduced to that technology before. Provide a discussion area for general discussion outside of the discussion topics, or provide even more collaborative opportunities. And that will be very easy to do in our new Canvas LMS. So stay tuned for more about Canvas. We will be starting that soon. We want to provide and ask for feedback. One of the biggest things is making yourself vulnerable and making sure that students know that you have empathy for their situation. We were all students at one time, I believe, and we understand how difficult it is sometimes to juggle all of this stuff. So provide them feedback, but also ask them for feedback. Make yourself vulnerable. Demonstrate empathy. And so here's an example. If I can get it to come up. I might have to use my other one. So here's something that me, Christine Bassett, and a few other faculty, I think Julie Grimmelsman here in class may be trying a Padlet as well. But something I do, I throw this in my announcements page and in my discussion board, and I say, let's get to know each other. And I just go find a digital image that represents you and why you're taking this class, and post this image and a description of the object here. I tell them how to use the technology, which is really easy. You just press that pink button in the corner, and they get to do it. So they got to put their own titles in here. They got to put their own pictures, what demonstrates them. I gave them an example, of course, and then I responded to all of them in here. So you can see this is just another way to provide a more dynamic and diverse way to talk to them. And I did surveys to my students afterwards, and they really loved this. They thought it was a great way to get to know each other. And if I just scroll down, you can see they really talk a lot about themselves. But you can see they really took off. I had a small class this time, but they really liked it. So just build that community, and you can do it in a lot of different ways. That was just one example of this. So clarify your online course expectations. And this could be from creating announcements with your expectations on engagement, assignments, discussion board, replies, or etc. You can use video announcements, and in Canvas, it's going to be very easy to do video and audio because it's going to be embedded right in our learning management system. So here's an example of something that one of our CIS CRJ faculty are doing. He's actually doing this and a couple other introductory videos to try to get, and I know there's no sound, there's no sound because I muted it, but I just wanted you to see what he's doing. And of course, I don't expect anybody else's to look this nice. This is what he does for a living. But you can see he's throwing this in at the beginning to kind of get them ready for the entire course. And then he's talking over it as it goes through. And then he has another video right after for each module to go in depth into this. So our faculty are really starting to be innovative and creative when they talk to students and promote that engagement and get them into the class. I know he used the old logo, but we talked to him about that. And then here is something that one of our psychology faculty did. She did an Emoto. I'll mute that as well. But she does these for each module. She'll say that we have some deliverables. She talks over. She gives them, 6 responses times 3 days is what she wants for engagement. Then they have a couple papers. So there's lots of different ways that you can talk to your students, tell them about your expectations, and you can do it video, audio, weekly, bi-weekly, announcements, discussion boards, etc. Or if you talk about the assignments, you can define the task. I mean, sometimes these assignments in our classes may be confusing to our students, but they might also be confusing to us. So it might be better for all of us included to go through the assignment, go through the tasks, the rubrics, and maybe clarify some expectations and articulate where you're looking, what you're looking, and how you're going to grade. And then here's another video that Vincent, he's a really wonderful faculty member in terms of providing explanations for students. And here's one of his assignments. He goes through each one, and he talks about where he wants them. And this is a computer coding class, so don't worry if you can't understand it, because it's all code. But he goes through each assignment. He goes through each part of it, and he gives them his expectations. He gives them tips and hints. He also talks to his students about any pitfalls that he might have seen over the past, few times on this assignment that other students have fallen into. So that's also an option if you want to create that supportive learning environment for your students. You can see he just scrolls through. He talks about each part of this. Another example of how a faculty member might be defining or trying to get students into the classroom to engage. And this one, she was very deliberate, right, and explicit. Here's where all your points are coming from. You get 3 points for this, 3 points for this, 5 points for this. So you can be very deliberate and give students a roadmap on how they're going to engage to stimulate that engagement, or you could be a little more holistic like Vincent Tran or the other example that I showed you, and just kind of go through it with a video or audio. I'm going to pause because I just gave you a lot of information. Do we have any questions or comments? So step 5 is identify and employ the best online tools for interaction. And we've talked about this before. The bad technology can really disengage students, right? So something you need to practice with, kind of like I practiced with MindMeister a million times last week to prepare for today, I still had a backup plan. So we really have this love-hate relationship with technology. We love it. It allows us to do our jobs, right? We wouldn't be able to have online education without it. But make sure that you have a plan to help students understand what tools you're using. And then have some questions in your head about choosing a tech tool. And, in Canvas, you're going to be able to integrate a lot of different tools right into the learning management system. So think about these things. Is it free? Do you or your students need an account? Does it offer, if it is not free, does it offer teacher accounts? What are the terms of service? Can your students legally use the site? And can your students' finished products be archived, or can you save them? With a lot of the stuff that I've promoted over the last year, like Padlet, you can save everything you do as a PDF, and you can save it forever. So just take these questions and have them in the back of your head when you start to use tech tools. So stop number 6 on the path to student engagement is to promote the exchange of ideas in the online classroom. And that can be, a lot of faculty will go, well, Carol, I threw out a discussion question. They gave me 1 or 2 sentences, and then the conversation was over. Even if I started to try to get back in there and promote other things, it just wasn't going anywhere. And then I would look at the question, and it would be a what is, or define. Well, with those types of questions, you're going to get a lot of the same answers, right? Because if you're defining something, there's probably only 1 or 2 definitions for that topic. Or what is, there's probably only a few. So if you move up that pyramid on Bloom's and, debate, or, discuss, or even move up and analyze into the analyze part of Bloom's, where they actually have to think about it and put it into other terms, then you might start to get some of those differences of opinion in that debate and that pushing for theory. And you might get some different types of answers where you can have a really vibrant and deep conversation. Make sure your students are ready to be part of a team. I promote a lot of group work in my class, and I know everyone hates group work. But, I say, you have 3 days to do this project as a group, but at the end you're turning in your own individual mind map, or you're turning in your own individual infographic. So that, they have to work as a team, but they're still getting graded individually so that they feel like they don't have to depend on other people for their grade. And they seem to really enjoy that. I got really positive student feedback on that type of group work. Make sure you build in opportunities for discussion and consensus. I throw in debates, I throw out what would you do videos so that they can defend and debate and propose common vision. Now, if you're going to host debates, though, here's a little caveat. Make sure you do some norms of collaboration so students aren't, being really mean to each other. So I had a question. Since our courses are predefined with questions that may not include opportunities for discussion, how do you build on that? Well, Janice, our classes have predefined questions, but we can also add to those. There's nothing that says we can't add questions, activities, or projects in that discussion board as long as they're supporting the SLOs. So let's say my class, I had 3 discussion questions that were required of me per module. Well, after those discussion questions are done and we've kind of talked out, even if I've added some additional content or videos, or we've kind of talked it out on those, I'm sure there's other topics besides those 3 discussion questions that we're talking about for the week, or that are on their formal assessments at the end of the week. So I'm going to look at those formal assessments at the end of the week, think about what my students need, and I might throw out another video, or I've had them actually build a collaboration board where they go out and they find resources and they put it on the resource, like the Padlet. I had students that could not understand how to build a rubric. So I said, you know what, go out and find a resource that helps you understand how to build a rubric in your class, because this was for teacher education. And I want you to throw it on this Padlet so that we're building a resource from a lot of diverse perspectives on building a rubric, and then we're going to save it as a PDF, and now you have this resource on how to build rubrics. So that's just an example of a different thing that you can do beyond the DQs. You're going to be able to do some of that stuff now. And we can talk later if you want some more information. So then also focus on strengths and stretching their expertise. We're at Baker, we're really big on graduation rates, but we're also really big on employment rates. Our students are getting jobs. So we need to make sure that we're promoting and strengthening and stretching their expertise in the content areas if we're teaching those types of classes. So here's an example of an alternative engagement prompt. So this faculty member and I worked heavily together to kind of make his class more vibrant and dynamic, because sometimes students in they have to take a gen ed credit and geography is one, but they hate geography. So we said identify an assigned country below. He assigned each student a specific country, and then he had them create an infographic or a poster. And he gave them specific things that he wanted on there. And then he said, attach your work as a one-page Word, PowerPoint, or image file. And then he gave them a couple tools that they could use. And then he had them post it in the discussion board underneath a thread. And this worked phenomenally. The students really went all out. They got creative, but then they were learning from each other, building these resources on learning the different countries in Europe. So this is just another example of going beyond just the simple DQ. You can have them create things, do products. You can have them take quizzes, just like how I did earlier. I know you didn't like that. So I'm going to pause again in case you have any more questions. And then our next session on engagement, I will actually have more of these examples of alternative discussion prompts. I just kind of wanted to go through the 5 basic engagement things today. It's called scaffolding and planning. Woohoo! Yes, I can certainly provide this PowerPoint. At the end of every professional development session, Sherry, I like to make sure that I provide the recorded video, the PowerPoint, for everybody who was there, and then I also will post it on our professional development website, just so you can take a peek at all of this stuff later. And I'll make sure that all the links are active as well. So stop number 7, and this is the last one, is provide timely, relevant, and actionable feedback. And we've had a big push for feedback on our campus this year, and making sure that our feedback is positive, formative, and quality. So make sure, and this is just a highlight of all of those things combined, just make sure that formative feedback is continuous, and we offer it in the discussion board, we offer it in announcements, and maybe we're offering some formative in our assignments. And lower level courses, maybe we include additional resources and strategies to master the content. Upper level maybe include ideas around formative feedback and can provide probing questions. Maybe we're using that feedback to further their thoughts and make them critically think. And then summative feedback at the end of the week or the end of the course, it's not really the time to give them probing questions, but be very specific, maybe with examples of what they might have missed, and then provide expectations of what is expected, or maybe even give them some specific examples of what they did right. When I do evaluations or observations on faculty, I like to give you guys positive and opportunities, because I think if you walk away from that conversation with, oh, well, Carol just told me that I have multiple things wrong, I didn't do anything right, you're not going to be very motivated or engaged to improve or think outside the box, right? So I think giving them those specific examples of what they did right, what they did wrong, or what they might have gotten incorrect is a great way to kind of build that relationship and positive learning environment and get them engaged. And then here's some examples. I know this is really quite wordy, and I apologize, but I couldn't pick between which ones I wanted to include. So here's some examples of feedback, and I kind of put them into 4 categories. So provide balanced feedback, provide specific feedback, use positive tones, and ask questions to promote thinking. So these are just little snippets that might have been in a larger feedback, but I didn't want to include a lot. So Peggy, great job with including explaining McDonald's business model. You want to bring that type of detail to each section. Overall, good work. So she gave her opportunity, but she also decided to give them just a positive. The second one provides specific feedback. This one was very specific. The second paragraph on page 4, and then they went into what it was. So that's providing specific feedback. Using positive tones. This one, 2/3 of your feedback should be positive and point out what is correct. So with a few improvements in and then whatever, this would be aligned with expectations, superior work exceeds standards. And just remember, be positive, be specific. And then ask questions to promote thinking. So you can see in this section, what are some examples of the concept you could describe, or tell me more about hijacking process for an operating system. So you can see that there's a lot of different aspects of feedback that can promote student engagement, whether it's summative or formative. There is an issue of getting students to read feedback, and that is an opportunity for us. Maybe we start giving audio feedback, which is really easy to do in Canvas. Or maybe we send it to them, send them a little email. Hey, your feedback is in Canvas or it's in Blackboard. Maybe you should go take a peek at that. Maybe that them not reading their feedback is just an opportunity for us to reach out in an alternative way. So why this? Why now? A more engaged student equals better learning outcomes. And student engagement is usually a good predictor of their learning, their persistence, attainment, personal development. Sorry, I went really fast through that. So that's why we keep talking about engagement. It's why it's probably the biggest topic across education right now. How do we promote it? How do we keep them? So in thinking about our first survey, would any of your answers be different now that we've talked about student engagement? And let me refresh your memory on the poll. Most of your answers would not change. Students come to the table to learn. It is our responsibility to make that meal as appetizing as possible. Yes. I think David and I talked a little bit earlier about, the discussion board's kind of like a buffet, right? We got to make sure that we get them to the specific areas of the buffet that we want them to go to lead them to the path to learning and succeeding and being successful with learning the SLOs. Okay, well, I'm going to pause again. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. It's always good for a good pause. Hope that everybody enjoyed today. I made you guys work a little bit in getting to the mind map and answering the quiz and talking with me. If you want to check out other PD offerings, I'm putting the link to our site in the chat box now. Okay, Sherry, well, we have 2 more sessions in this engagement series, and we're going to dig deeper into how to get students to engage and with feedback and with each other and with the content. So, okay, well, that was our presentation. We ended a few minutes early, and if any of you have any questions, please contact Julia Kiter or myself. We're the IESs for the online campus, and we're always happy to help. I hope everybody has a wonderful day.